All right, we're back, and it's COMP397, right? Web game programming. It's week 5, lesson 5, part 2. And we're going to talk about slot machine build, part 1. This is the first part of our slot machine series, and how to build a slot machine with HTML5 technologies, JavaScript, TypeScript, and Visual Studio, right? All right, so the first thing we need to do is set up our programming environment. So I always try and start with that, right? So remember, last week when we got together, we did this state machine. And I don't want to forget about it because it was really good what we did, right? Let's go back. It's COMP397 lesson 4, right? And I've shown you this before, but this is good practice nowadays. When you get your state machine working, let's see what we had from last week. I'm just going to run it here, right? And this is what you guys have, right? So game starts,
Yay.
Right? Yay, back.
Yay.
Next, right, and back again. Your state machine is running. I definitely don't want to reinvent the wheel here. I want to start with this stuff, and I want to use my gameplay screen to put my slot machine in play. All right. Now my slot machine should fit in here. It's not going to be 640 by 480, so hopefully, but it's got to fit in here, and it's got to work out so that it fits in my screen. Right. So that's one thing. So the buttons that I have right now, I can't use these buttons because I need to make them so that they're slot machine buttons, right? And it's got to look like a slot machine in the background. So I got to get a slot machine graphic or something like that so it works okay. So that's the first thing we're going to look. This is what we have. Now I don't want to disrupt what we have, and I want to create a new project, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, I'm going to file, let's do this together, export template, right? And this is what I did last time with you guys. When I export my template, I want to kind of make it so that my COMP397 lesson 4 is the template for the next project we're going to do, right? So I'm just going to save it as this and then press finish. So there's not much, I'm not changing anything. All I'm doing is saving COMP397 lesson 4 as my template. Okay, good. Done. It's going to populate this with a little bit of a zip file here, like this is going to show me all my templates. And then I can leave the operating system and I can close my solution. So I'm going to close my solution down. And when I do that, I'm going to start a new project. So let's do this together, right? Here's my new project. And my new project is going to be based on my old project, which again is we're building on the stuff we've done. Slowly, slowly, all we've been doing is taking our code base we've developed, and we're going to continuously make it better and better. In fact, if anything, we're almost making a bit of an API of our own, right? Think about what we're doing. We've got our state machine. If you were to take that state machine and use it, call it scenes or whatever, and we can hone it up, it'll even work better across any game we want to build. All right, so here we are back in Visual Studio, and it's asking me, hey, what kind of project do you want to build? I want to build a Visual C# project. That's what it's going to say. And I want to scroll all the way down to this template I just made, COMP397 lesson 4, right? Now I want to rename this thing from COMP397 lesson 4 to, and this is what we're going to work with over the next couple weeks we're together, obviously just this week, and when you get back, we'll have a little bit of time for this as well. We're going to call this slot machine demo, right? This is the one we're going to learn to build, right? So we're going to do everything with this. I'm going to create also a repository online that allows me to mirror what we have here. Okay, so I'm going to press OK, and it's going to give me everything that I got from before. So I got all my code from before. The only thing is now the naming convention is a little bit different. Notice my solution says COMP397 slot machine demo, and my project is COMP397 slot machine demo. By the way, for those people who don't know, you can have multiple projects within your solution. Right, so you could have stored every single assignment in here. I just don't recommend it. I think you should break it out so that one assignment, one project, or one project, one solution, to keep it simple. All right, one thing I should probably change is my index.html. The very first thing I want to change is change my COMP397, the title, COMP397 lesson 2, to COMP397 slot machine demo. Slot machine demo. All right, so I want to save that. Makeen. Islam Makeen. Okay, man? Okay, man? Let's save that, Islam Makeen. And now that we have our slot machine saved, I want to create a new Git repository. All right, remember, we've been doing Git command line, right? But what I'm going to do as a change is let's use the Git tool, right? So for those people who don't know how to do it, because I know Git, I know people who are doing the hackathon, you had all kinds of lovely problems with Git, right? Let's talk about a way of doing it without the command line. Okay, so I'm going to bring up this tool. This is my desktop tool, so follow me here. If you don't have the desktop tool, you can download it from desktop.github.com, right? This is the Windows version of the desktop tool. Now, if you notice, there's a bunch of other repositories that I got in here that I really don't care for, right? So what I want to do is I want to add a new repository. Right? So I'm going to click the plus button. You guys have the tool, the GitHub tool? Let me get it for you. Just so I'll slow down a little bit to get this. So again, we're just setting up our environment here. So I'm going to go github.com. If I go desktop.github.com, it takes me to this download, right, where it says download the GitHub desktop tool, right? And if you notice this, I got a nice little interface here, right, which is a little bit different than mine, right? Here's the desktop tool here, right? And the desktop tool shows this interface right here. Let's update mine so it looks like this. So I'm going to close this one down, and I'm going to download my GitHub desktop. I'll just follow the kind of the way of doing this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to load this thing up, right here in Windows 10, right? And let's run this tool just like I'm running it for the very first time. And that was interesting how it ramped that up. I didn't expect it to be that quick, but I guess it just updated what I had. Okay, now when you download the tool and install it, what it does is, I'm just going to come up here. It also downloads something called Git shell, which is actually a little better than if you're using a regular command prompt in Windows, right? It's Windows PowerShell, kind of just specifically for Git. So if I was to run Git shell, double click, and if I was to put in my PowerShell commands, and here's my GitHub, where it says unknown. But let's say if I go to my folder, which I don't have right now, so let's say I go up one, and I know that in my documents, if I do an ls command, it actually accepts Linux-like commands, right? I can go to something called sandbox. Here's my sandbox. And let me just clear the screen, right? Here's my sandbox. I want to look for COMP397 slot machine demo, which is right here, right? So I can go to it. So comp cd COMP397, COMP397. And if you notice, it's going for the first one, right? And then I'll say slot machine. There it is. And if you notice, because I've created it with Visual Studio, it's already done a Git initialization here. And you can tell because down here, right? I'm just going to do a clear screen so you can see it better. Up here, you can see that it says master. That's my master branch. And if you notice, there's +2. There's additions we've added in, a couple of files that I've added in since I've done this. And it's really waiting for me in red to do a commit. That's what it's waiting for me to do. I haven't done any commits yet in Git, and I don't have a connection. But I do have a repo that I have right here. It is a Git repo because I've initialized it with Visual Studio. Okay, so I'm using the tool. I'm not using Git. I'm not using Visual Studio for the first time, right? So let's take a look at the tool. So let's say you have problems with using Visual Studio. Now I don't see my COMP397 slot machine demo here. I see COMP397 slot machine. That ain't it. That's an older repository. Let's see if I can find it. And the way to add or scan for repositories that exist on your system, right? There's a couple ways you can do it. I can physically go here, and I can go to options, and I can say scan for repositories. That's one way I can do it. Okay, so if I scan for repositories, it's going to scan my system for where Git knows there's already repositories, and it's going to recommend. I'm going to just disable all these ones, right? But if you notice, it makes some suggestions, quite a few of them. Here's my sandbox, and if I go through here, it'll show me my slot machine demo. So I can physically click this, and it would add it in because I already have a Git repository. That's one way to do it. I'm not going to do it that way. That would work. Okay, the other way to do it is if I click the plus button up here. So I'm clicking plus, right? And it's going to say, do I want to create a new repository? No. I need to add a new repository. And this way, when I add a new repository, I'm going to browse for where the repository is located. So I know where it is for me. It's under this PC, C# or C, sorry, going down to users, right? And then under documents, it's going to be under sandbox. And you see like how convoluted this is. I know where it is though. And then down here is the slot machine demo. I'm going to choose this one and then press OK. When I do that, it says, okay, cool. I see that there's a repository here. Let's add this repository. So I'm going to click Add. I already have one. Okay, cool. So now it looks like there's an initial commit to default, right? And on here, on top of here, it says there's 41 uncommitted changes up here. Do you see that? Because it says there's a changes thing. You should see about the same thing for your Windows tool, right? If I click on this little link, it shows me 41 changes, and it's asking me for a commit. That's what this summary thing means, right? Yeah.
What are the green boxes and red boxes you use?
That's interesting. What it does is it tells you about each of the additions. So, for example, this one here, because this is a the slot machine demo, it tells you what you've changed. Here, take a look. 16 additions, right? 22 additions. This is like code that we've added in, right, to each one of these things, right? So let's add a commit, right? So I'm going to add a commit. Now I made an initial commit. I'm going to say created base create.js projects. That's what we did, right? Project with state machine, because that's what we have with the state machine. That's our first thing we did. So create.js project with state machine. I'm going to commit to master. Take a look. So I've committed it to master. So now these are committed changes, right? But I haven't published it yet. Take a look. I've got these big ass, what we call it, circles here. So I got 2 commits locally, but they haven't been synced. I want to publish now. I don't even have a Git repository online for this one, okay? I want to publish this one, and it's going to ask me where do I want to put it. Now, it's going to be called what I named it, COMP397 Slot Machine Demo, the name of my project, the name of my folder, right? And I can choose which organization I want to use. For example, I'm going to choose Centennial College. So that's where it's going to go. If it works, this name is going to remain green. If I haven't named something else like this, as an example, it's going to tell me things are good. Now I can click Publish COMP397 Slot Machine Demo. So I've got a connection. It kind of can read already the repositories that are online, and I'm going to click Publish COMP397. So now what it's doing is it's going through and it's publishing my changes, right? And if you notice now, the dots went from big dots that are open, big circles that are open, to like little gray dots. Little gray dots are a good indication that both of these 2 changes, these 2 commits, are now up online, and our blue circle tells us where we are right now. That's the head of our commits. We have no commit yet. Nothing to commit. If you look at changes, there's no changes, there's 0 changes, everything has been committed. Now let's check GitHub to see that all this is done. So I'm going to go to github.com, right, and I know where it is. It's in Centennial College, this organization here that we're going to go to. And if you notice, here it is, COMP397 Slot Machine Demo. That was updated 39 seconds ago. And if I go here, it'll show me that I got a git ignore here, right? I got some git attributes. What about a README file? I want to add a README file from the remote site. Let's do that. And let's say, this like we did before, we'll say this repo is for COMP397 web game programming at Centennial College. Assignment 2, slot machine demo. Slot machine. So I'm going to tend to take this here for a second. Let me just cut it out. And you know what? Here's something. It's markdown, right? So markdown, single hash means it's an H1 type tag. And if I put double hashtag like this, double hash, it's going to mean it's an H2, right? So I'm going to kind of save this by going down here and clicking commit new file. When I do that, this is what it looks like. So I've got an H1 tag equivalent here. Oh, I made a mistake. Demo. Right, let's update that. So I'm going to go back into my README file, and I'm going to update it by clicking the edit this file, the little pencil, and getting rid of it, like fixing this up. Oops, fixing this up. Tom. and then going down here and say, we'll say updated, we updated it. So there's 2 commits now. I have 2 commits I'm behind locally, right? If I go back to the slot machine, I notice I have 4 commits up here. Down on my tool, it only shows 2 commits, right? So if you're working with somebody else, which is, this is where the pain in the ass comes into play, right? The polite thing to do is say, I'm working with Jay, let's say, right? And I say, Jay, are you done? He says, yeah, good. I'll pull his changes down, work on my stuff, push it back up to GitHub, and then I'm saying, I'm done. Here's your handoff. Now he goes ahead and does his stuff. He works with it. He pulls my changes, works with his stuff, does his changes, pushes up to GitHub saying, I'm done, handoff, right? That's the easiest way to use GitHub. More complex ways, different people working on different things, right? And now you got to be careful what files you're affecting, like meta files and Unity. All that kind of stuff can mess you up, and then you might have to do merges and so on. You got to be really careful. Or unless you make a separate branch, in which case you can merge or accept the second branch as the master later on. Okay, but we're not going to go there right now. So I'm a couple commits behind. What do? I click the sync button. When I click the sync button here in the tool, it checks to see if there's any changes online, and it's going to pull all the changes. Now you've noticed down here, there's 4 commits that are local, and now we're up to date again. Okay, so it's a nice little tool. I wanted to bring it to your attention just because if you're having problems with Visual Studio, or let's say you don't like command line, but you want to do GitHub, and I think it's an important piece to this whole puzzle, this is another way of doing it. All right, every time I make a change, the Git tool watches those folders. So there's a watch function that continues to watch those folders for any changes. Right, as soon as there's a change, it notices there's an update. Let's go back into Visual Studio now and see how that works together. So I'm going to close this tool off. And I'm going to go back into Visual. Actually, let's refresh this for a second so we can see this same 4 changes, right? One branch, 1 contributor. It's on Centennial College. And if you wanted to fork it right now, you could, and you'd have what I'd have. I don't recommend it yet. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Visual Studio and see what we've got. So if I go to Team Explorer here, right? And if I go to changes, you can see that there are no changes. I don't have any untracked files either. Everything is up to date here on the master. Let me see if there's any unsynced commits. And if you notice, there are no unsynced commits. I can also do a pull here as well in the tool like I normally do, right? But there's nothing that has to change. Okay, so good. We've got our environment working. And I'm fairly satisfied that we're on the right track now. Let's start trying to get our graphics ready to go. Okay, so that's, I think, the next stage of our stuff. So, you know, if you're a smart developer, you're going to try and find some assets, as an example, that are free. And some people go to the Unity Asset Store because they're so used to doing it. There's tons of assets there that you can download for free. Let's try this out. So I go to Unity Asset Store, even though we're not doing Unity. Unity is a great place to get 2D assets sometimes, right, for free. So let me look and see if there's any kind of slot machine that I can put in there. So I'm going to put slot machine. It's going to look through. And there's a slot machine toolkit that you can certainly download. You know, but it's for cost. Like, so they all cost money. Here's a common casino bundle. That's interesting. That they might have here on the bottom. So bring it up so you can see a common casino bundle, right? And what I'd have to do if you have Unity, and most of us have Unity here in the room. If you don't have Unity, you wouldn't be able to do anything with this stuff. But if I go here, let's take a look what you get with the common casino bundle. So you get some 3D stuff, neat. Nothing that works for us. If you notice, like there's a couple of 3D slot machines here. Let's take a look. That's not going to really serve us too well, right? I mean, neat idea and all, right? But nothing we can really use, you know, because we want a 2D kind of thing. So that's not really good. So let's try this again. So let's say 2D slot machine. Okay, so again, there's a couple of things, $2 here or whatever. I'm not going to spend any money though, because you know we don't have to. We're going to make it from scratch. But if you really want to, you could find your own assets that you can reuse. Remember, you don't have to make your assets for this thing. I don't expect any of you to be designers or anything like that. You can certainly grab assets from whatever source you like to create your things. Okay, but so again, I'm just going to point out, well, this is one source. What about other sources? Well, how about just Googling it? So I'm going to go back to on the Mac side, and I'm going to Google slot machine. So I'm going to say slot machine, and I'll say 2D slot machine. So Google that and go to images. And if you notice, there's some images for 2D slot machines. Now I want almost like a background to give me, you know, the slot machine that I'm going to have in 2D. So something that's got to work for me has to be something with buttons, a background. This might not be so bad. This is 590 by 590, right? This one here. I could probably customize this one. Let's see if this is something that I can work with. I'm going to click on this one. Now, it looks like there's a bit of a background, right? And look, it says ActionScripts 3 slot machine effect. Okay, that's fine. Let's see if there's other ones too. On that one, I can't use because of the coins, right? Same thing with this one. This one might be okay, but this one looks like there's a Envato kind of you know, images here that tell me it's copyrighted. Same thing here, vector stock, right? But this is the kind of stuff we need to start off with. Now, again, if you're an artist, you can certainly draw this out. I'm just going to take this first one, which is for this one, and just use this as a background. And it's just for practice. I'm not selling it or anything like that for people watching this on GitHub or YouTube, I mean. That's what I'm using it for. It's just for practice, for teaching purposes only. Okay, so let's grab this thing and do this. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to save the image as. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some slot machine assets. So I'm going to go back to my desktop. Let's do this together. You grab one that makes sense for you. And I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop here called slot machine assets. Right? Just like we did MailPilot assets or whatever. Okay, so this is called a red slot machine. I'm just going to call this background. And I'm going to save it. Oh, here's my background. I'm going to open it up now in Fireworks. Right now, for some of you, you may not be comfortable with Fireworks. I like Fireworks because of its simplicity, right? That's why I like it. So this is what it really looks like. This is the real size of it. Now, if I click onto this thing, you notice the whole thing is 590 by 590. I'm 640 by 480, so it can't be quite as wide, right? Or sort of quite as tall. So I need to chop some of this off. In fact, all I need is this piece, right? I don't need the stars and the stripes. I don't need that stuff. That's neat. I don't need it, right? I need this piece. It's kind of straightforward. It does everything I need to do. I can even relabel these buttons to make them what I want. It's almost a complete thing from the get-go. And I need to clean up this piece here, these reels, because it can't be anything in here, right? Because I need to make my own. Okay, so how would I do that? So first I'm going to go into my crop tool. And any image editor has this capability, right? And I'm going to crop away the stuff that I don't want. Right, so I'm going to kind of come up to here, let's say, to include those. We're going to clean this up in a second. Basic image editing stuff we're going to do today, okay? Nothing crazy. I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert at this stuff, but I'm good enough that I can go through this. So I've done this enough times. I've edited enough images in my time, right? Where I can go through and you see that there's a bit of an Envato background too. So we're going to have a little bit of, I mean, obviously it's not perfect what we're going to get, right? Okay. So we're going to just get up to here. I'm going to double click here and it's going to just crop this. There we go. So I've cropped it up. Now I want to get rid of some of this other stuff because that doesn't make any sense for me, right? So we're going to do another little crop, but we're going to do it with our selection tool. Now again, every program does this slightly different. All I'm going to do is going to go down here and select. And by the way, when I select, I like to zoom to make sure that my selection is cool. That's not cool. So I'm going to do it again. So I want to be as precise as I can be. By the way, when I'm done, I will upload this to GitHub so you have a copy of what I'm doing. I'll just grab the top of this. It's okay if I go a little bit over. And I'll press delete. Right, so I just killed that part. Same thing here. I'm going to do the same thing just as low as I can do. Right. So again, you can try this out with your favorite program. I highly encourage you to practice, guys, because you may need to do some of this with your game design. So I'm going to go right down to the ball. I'm not going to ever use this thing, the one-arm bandit, but you know what? I'm trying to wipe out as much as I can. Or maybe I took too much off the top there. I gave it too much of a haircut. Sorry. You can't give the ball too much of a haircut, or else it won't look like a ball. There we go. All right, and there's some other pieces. I'm trying to get the big pieces with my selection tool, and the rest I need to clean up by hand, which is a pain in the ass, right? So just to kind of cut down on how much pain I'm going to have here, I'm going to try and cut this down so that there's less potential issues. Let's try that again. You can hear my fan going now. Once I start doing image editing, you know, my machine, especially if I'm doing image editing, I got a VM running, right? And I'm also recording live. This is where probably you're seeing, Tom, your voice is being lost because I'm doing this kind of stuff, right? All right, so that kind of chopped that off, and then I'll do another little chop here. So, again, I'm trying to be as careful as I can within reason so we don't spend a million years watching paint peel here. Right? Because when you watch me do it, it's like literally watching paint peel. I know, I've done it before. I've watched other people do it. I'm like, why doesn't he just do this? Why doesn't he do that? This is another way you can do it. You can do it this way. And you're going to have other ways of doing stuff, always, guys. And you're going to do it your way, right? And you're going to, oh, he messed that one up. Oh, his is not as good anymore. I don't want to use his stuff or whatever. Okay. That's what happens because people, you watch it being done and you're like, I can do that better. Do it. That's the whole exercise. The whole exercise here is don't watch me. I'm just cleaning this up right now. So I'm using my selection tool just to grab pixel by pixel and clean it up so that there's none of that blue streaky stuff. And if you can hear, there's a bit of a blue streak here. And all I'm doing is I'm deleting the background and I'm leaving in place the transparency in the background here. Now this is where it's going to get a little more hairy on this part because you have more of a different kind of shape area here. And I'm going to have to use my other tools to clean this up. We're going to try and take away as much as we can with these rectangles that I'm using, right? Just to cut away as much as I can here so that it's very basic, nothing crazy, again, right? Because we want to make sure that we can clean up our assets just before we put them into production. Because we don't want assets that are difficult to work with. We don't want that. We want them to be easy to work with. And so this is what I'm left with. So how do I clean up this ball, right? So now I'm going to have there's an eraser tool that I can use. And again, most programs have this eraser tool. I'm just going to go in here and change the size. So I'm going to reduce the size to, let's say, 10 pixels. And I find that working with a round eraser tool is a little bit easier than working with a square one. So now, sorry, I got to escape here. Let's go back to my eraser tool. And now what I'm doing is I'm just going to, by hand, I'm going to hand bomb it and try and clean up with my eraser tool as much as I can. Then I'm going to go in there with my magnifier. And then I'll have this, like I said, as much as I can with my unsteady hand. And I'll go in there with my magnifier and clean it up afterwards. Because, this way I'm just taking the bulk of this stuff away. And I'm also, the great thing is because I'm using Fireworks, the background is what they call a canvas in Fireworks, right? And what I can do to go into it is go in there and do pixel by pixel kind of modification, slowly, okay? So again, nothing's gonna be perfect. Take a look at these lines here. I'm not gonna fix those things, no way, right? That's just part of the stamp that says, hey, this is an Envato kind of image that you're using. Let's look in the, I'm gonna use the magnifier here to go through. Let's magnify right in here, and I'm going to get rid of some of this blue. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. Again, I'm going to use the eraser tool, and I'm also going to go into fine details. So I'm going to kind of reduce this, make it an edge of 1, and I'm going to go down to a much smaller size, let's say 2. And now I can go in here and have more control erasing some of this stuff. But I don't want to destroy the shape of my circle, right? Go in here and change this stuff out. So all I'm doing is erasing by hand some of this stuff to get rid of the blue that I can see. Because the blue background was that, that background I want to get rid of. Okay, good. So looking a little better. And again, guys, is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. Some people would choose to get rid of this whole ball thing and redo it. I may decide to do that in the end because there's going to be issues like you see. And that's okay because as long as I kind of I can get a sample of the gray that I want to use and put it around just to redo some of this artwork. I'm using it as a baseline for me to work with, right? Because I'm going to create my slot machine here. All right, so I think that does probably where I want to go with that one. Let me just make sure that there's anything else. Oh yeah, that top bar has got to go too because that's blue. I'm going to go back to my selection tool here. And I'm going to select this top row. There it is. And just kind of pull it right across to the other side. Delete that, right? So escape. And now let's zoom out to see what we got. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the tool. Not bad. There's still some stuff we need to clean up around there. And the way I would probably do that is, first of all, we're going to save all that work, right? So that's the kind of guy that I am. I like to save. And I'm also going to go into my toolbar here, or my tool, and I have a shape that I'm going to use. I'm using a lip shape. And I'm going to kind of, I want to get a sample of this, the object. I don't want to have a center to it, so I'm going to kind of make it so there's no fill. But I want my, kind of the side to be kind of like this darker gray. So I'm just going to get a sample of the dark gray from my border here. And then I'm going to get the tool and draw it out. So let's do this thing. So I'm going to say, all right, so I'm going to hold my shift button so it's proportional, and I'm going to draw this thing out as best as I can. There we go. Move this out a little bit and increase my border to about 2. So zoom in there to see what I'm doing, because you guys can't see. So here's I'm zooming. So you see I've got my border that I put in to around 2 to clean up some of my mistakes. Let's make it 3. All right. And now I'll move it over a little bit. I'm just masking what my mistakes are on the side, because I don't have time to go through pixel by pixel and clean it up. Okay. All right, cool. So now we've got our ball. It looks pretty good. I think I'm satisfied with what I've got here. Let's just go back here, and I'm going to Control A to select everything, right? And I'm going to right-click in here with Fireworks, and I'm going to flatten my selection. So that's going to flatten my layers. So there's not going to be any more layers, just one bitmap. I'm also going to go to Modify Canvas and trim my canvas as close as possible to chop it up. So there it is. I've got a bit of this transparency here in the background, and this is going to be something that we may decide later on, this arm that we got here, we may decide to either take this out or animate it or something, right? But for now, we've got this transparency. So we also need to know that it's off-center, right? So for people who are building this thing, it's not centered. And I don't know if I can afford this. If I can't, I may not be able to, so I'm going to see how wide this is. I may have to cut this down, because I don't want to slim this out too much. All right, so let's see what our width is. I'm going to pull up my bar here, and if I notice my height is 462, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that height. And my width is 400. Remember, it's 640 by 480, so I'm pretty good in terms of my width, right? I think what I'd like to do is connect these two things. I can actually click on them from a proportionate perspective here. And if I want to, if I want to match up my width to be 480, so actually stretch out the size of my screen, that's probably a good thing. So let's go and do my width, or sorry, my height will be 480, and it'll change my width. So let's try that. There it is. And now I'm going to say Modify Canvas, right? And I'll say I want to fit my canvas around the image, so it'll kind of shrink wrap. What are your thoughts, guys? What do you think I should do? You think I should kill the handle, make it proportional, or you think I should keep the handle? What's your vote? Kill or keep? Kill. I hear a kill. What about you guys here? Fahim, you say keep? Keep or kill? Kill it? I got 2 kills. What do you say, Jay? He doesn't know. All right, let's kill it. So only because it may make it challenging from a proportional perspective later, and maybe some people don't like it. I'm not sure if I like it too much. Let's just go in here. And again, it's our slot machine, right? So we want to kill this thing. It's easy to do now, because the great thing is it is exactly in an area that I can totally delete, and it wouldn't be a problem. So let's just do that. It's going to save us some space and make our slots slightly bigger as well. So let's just do this. And we're going to kind of sample this area here. All right, so this is our selection area. And now I'm just going to press delete. Let's just make sure that I've also deleted this side here. This is where we get a little bit flaky when I do this kind of stuff. I like it and I don't like it. And I'm just going to zoom in here. Yeah, I got this little border on one side, but not the other now. So now we're going to go in here and kill this border, this little blue border. And opa, like Greeks say. It's funny, a Greek story for those people who care. They always say like this: I want to go get the opa from Greek town. I'm like, what are you talking about? They think the opa is like, the saganaki, the stuff that you light up on fire, right? I want to get the opa. No, they say opa, man. That's what they say. It's like saying, wow, bravo, right? That's that kind of stuff. But they don't, it's not called opa, right? for those people, just for those people who are not Greek out there. Anyways, all right, so we've cleaned this up, I think. Now Stephen is satisfied, it looks like. Stephen, are you satisfied? He's good. All right. Which line? What, this part here? No. Over here or to the left? The other way? This here? Or no, this here? No, that's not a line. That's part of my selection tool. Yeah, it looks like it is right now, but let me show you what that looks like if I zoom out. So if I kind of zoom out here, you can see that now it's not centered. This is just a selection line. So that's cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to modify my canvas, and I'm going to trim my canvas up a little bit more. So there it is. So now this is kind of more evenly spaced out. Not exactly. There's some, again, there's some little bit of pieces here that I could probably just, there's a slight difference, right, in terms of equality. And I can see that here because even though my height is 480, my width is 375, and that's the best I'm going to get, right? So it's not going to, I'm going to have space on both the right side and the left side of my document. Okay, so that's the first thing. So I'm going to get the background and save that. Step one. Step two, I need to get in there and take care of these reels. They got to go, right? So because they can't show symbols in here. I'm going to put the symbols in play. I like the arrow. That's my bet line, right? But these things in here, they got to go. All right, so let's zoom in there. Do that next. So same technique. What I'm going to use is, now the top part, I got to be very careful because it's a curved top. I got to make some design decisions here. So my design decisions is I'm going to kill the curve, right? And this because, you know, again, this is just, guys, you know, we can only be so precise. I can also change it so that there's rounded corners. I can change all that kind of stuff here from an edge perspective, right? Like, for example, I can choose the kind of edge I'm going to have, you know, and so on when I create my rectangle, right? So I'm creating a rectangle. I'm creating an edge for my rectangle, and I want to do, I'm probably going to make it black, right? So I'm going to choose a black edge because that's what the edge I'm seeing here is, probably black. And my background, I want it to be white, just to save myself some trouble, right? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Now, from a roundedness perspective, a lot of times you can use, you know, different overlappings and everything else. Let's see if I can have something that makes sense. No, that's just the texture on the background. I don't want to do that. Let's see if I can do, that's an effect for an overlay. Sometimes they have it so that you can, without an overlay or something, I can choose roundedness. What was that? Click and hold, eh? I guess that would be the best one, eh? I'm seeing that's probably the best one. You're right. Oh, there's rounded rectangle. Here it is. That's the one I really want. Because if I don't do the rounded rectangle, then it'll give me a square rectangle, and it's a pain in the ass. I don't need to use that one. Okay, so here's rounded rectangle. Let's try and do this thing. So I'm going to draw it from the corner here, and I'll do the best I can. That's pretty good, right? Now there's some. The good thing is it has control modules there, so that probably gives me how rounded it is. My guess. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these things out. Hopefully I can mirror this effect, right? If I move this, no. That just does another one. Let's do the selection tool here. I think that's what I need to do, and move these things here. Yes, and it does it roundedness nicely. So then it matches up my roundedness almost perfectly, you see? Okay, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, that's good. All right, I think, and now I don't like the border. I think it's a little bit too big, too thick. So let's move this down to 2. Might be good, right? So it's a little bit of a rounded effect with 2 border size. That might be good. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, now that I've got my rounded rectangle, and this is what I've got on the side here as part of my, it's in its own layer right now, and it masks what's ever in the background, right? So I'm going to kind of grab this thing, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to paste. Now I've got another rounded rectangle. I'm going to hold Shift and kind of pull it. I'm going to click it and hold Shift and move it across, right? So that way it kind of masks or sits right on top of the other one. Yeah, nicely. And we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of Control C, Control V, right? And then we'll kind of pull this one out, grab this, clip Shift, and it'll clip it so that it just goes right to the other side as best as possible. So they're as even as they can be. So that's pretty good. So I've wiped those things out. Let's take a look. I wiped those centers out, right? And I've got a bit of a slot machine now. Now, these layers here, there's actual objects that I want to wipe away. So what I'm going to do, just to be clear, is I'm going to select all, and I'm going to flatten everything again. Now, before I do that, because I can do that, but I want to kind of zoom in to make sure that this is proportional, right? Because this is the problem. Sometimes you get in and I want to make sure that that looks about right. By eye, it looks pretty good. Not sure if I can move that anymore. Let's see if I can move that to the right a little bit. No, that's not what I wanted. I meant if I deselect all, I meant to go here. If I will move it to the right, no, I think that's right. And that's probably where it's got to be there. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get everything correct. I'm going to lock the background just so that way it doesn't move. So I can select this one. And then that's pretty good. Let's see if this one moves a little bit closer too. Probably about right. So this looks like a little off. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this one move just a little bit to the left, just so that it's proportional, even though there's a bit of less space here than this one. But for now, I think this is probably good enough for us, for what we need. All right, let's zoom out and see what it looks like from a far away look perspective, right? Sometimes we want to do that as well. And I also, the other thing I want to try and take a look at here is, if you notice, so I've got the reels. This is where the buttons are going to be. This is good. And all I'm going to put there is labels, right? But I need to kind of put a button here. So I may have to, especially if I want a button that kind of you hover over. And when you click on that button, the whole hover effect and the transparency and all that I got to put in. So those are the kind of things. I'm building my UI. This is what I'm doing here with this one, right? So let us Control A, right? And now that I've got everything selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to flatten my selection again. So those layers are gone. So it's part of the bitmap, and I'm going to save. Okay, so this is our first piece. I think this is a good place to stop. We've got our background, and we're going to continue to build on this by providing things like some label areas that I'm going to create, a label box, right, that I'm going to do here in the tool. And I'm also, the things that we're also missing here is we're missing things like our jackpot amount, our bet amount, you know, all that kind of stuff, and our winnings. We have to kind of put places for all that here inside of our UI, right? And we got to do it so it's not disruptive, right? We can't make it disruptive. So maybe even inside this area here, I don't know where we're going to be. We're going to have to decide about that. Well, let's pause the video for now and take a short break. And when we come back, we'll get right into more of this graphic manipulation stuff. We may clean even some of these areas up so it looks even a little nicer.